And now with this, we head on to our next session, which is Winning the Talent Game, Strategies for SMEs to Attract and Retain Top Talent. And for the same, may I please request our moderator to please join us on stage, Atreyee, Borooah, Thekedath, and our speaker, Guna Grace, for this incredible session right here. Can we have a big round of applause to welcome them?
Good morning. Welcome, Guna.
Thank you.
So let's start with an icebreaker.
Okay.
All of us have LinkedIn profiles. Tell me about the one thing which is not there on your LinkedIn profile.
That was a very tricky question. Usually, when we host sessions at LinkedIn, we used to throw that googly, but it's coming back to me while I'm speaking. I'm thinking what's not there in my LinkedIn profile. The one thing that is not there in my LinkedIn profile is I'm a social worker for the last 10 years. I work with underprivileged women and children. That's not there in my LinkedIn profile.
Now, we know that LinkedIn is a very powerful networking platform. I think you have over 1 billion members on it.
Yes.
And your vision is to create economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Could you please elaborate on this?
Yeah, it's a very powerful vision that we have on board. Probably I'll call the vision again. LinkedIn's vision is to create economic opportunity for every member in the global workforce. I paused and insisted on every member because we don't want to leave anyone behind. We want to create economic opportunity, which is job, right, for everybody in the global workforce. Now, to precisely understand the LinkedIn's vision better, we need to understand what is called as LinkedIn's economic graph. The LinkedIn's economic graph is designed by us. Probably I will give you some context around it. It consists of a lot of professionals, skills, jobs, schools, which are universities, and so on. Now, if I actually put all of these into a graph, that's called as LinkedIn graph, LinkedIn economic graph. Now, we have around 1 billion members in the platform, digital representation of 1 billion profiles. That's number one. Number two is we have around 57 million companies who are present in the LinkedIn platform. And 121,000 universities have their presence, and 41,000 skills. This looks like a massive, massive data, right? And what are we doing with this data, right? We have created something which is very massive, a massive ecosystem, which the LinkedIn platform itself. The power of this data is driven by the artificial intelligence today. After our integration with OpenAI, I think the whole transformation happened in the talent industry as well. Now, with this massive ecosystem, what's actually happening and what are we doing, right? We are bringing people closer to each other. When we bring people closer to each other, a lot of opportunities are created. Now, let me give you an example. Let's say we're bringing consumers closer to the brands, right? We're bringing employers closer to the candidates. We are bringing buyers closer to the sellers. By doing such kind of an activity, what we're doing is we are creating that option wherein a lot of opportunities are created around that ecosystem. If there is such an ecosystem, there is always an ask and there is a need, right? Somebody is offering a job and somebody wants a job, right? So technically, if you see, such creation of large opportunities and activities which are happening in the platform enables us to achieve that vision.
Now, attracting top talent is a challenge across the board, attracting and retaining, and more so for the SMEs. So how would LinkedIn platform like LinkedIn help us in this?
Sure, it's a very, very interesting and a good question, and be very relevant for the small and medium organizations as well. So talent competition is everywhere, right? If you look at the large companies are hiring from smaller companies, startups, and startups are hiring from the larger companies as well. There is absolutely no rules, right? When I meet some large organizations, the CHROs speak about, the biggest threat for them is the startups. Basically, they are very scared about the startups hiring from them. This is because the power of, it's just not the compensation, it's also a lot of agile agile movement that is happening in the industry, right? It's changing very fast. Now, considering the large organization, smaller organization, and talent is common for everybody, I'm going to answer this question in two parts. One is, what is that you can do, right? What do we have control over, right? So what can organizations like you can do? And then we'll come to what can LinkedIn do, how can LinkedIn help, and so on. So what are we dealing with here? So we're dealing with a multi-generational workforce, right? When I say multi-generational workforce, it's from a baby boomer to a millennial to a Gen Z, right? Which means a grandfather and a grandson are working in the same workspace, right? Same office. That's the kind of complexity that we are dealing with today. First, we need to understand, to attract talent, we need to understand and connect with them, understand them and connect with them. Let's take Gen Zs, for example. What are they up to? They are speaking about saving the world. They are speaking about climate. They are speaking about protecting animals, right? And organizations don't have any clue of what they want, right? Like, how do you connect with those people, right? The expectation of a millennial or expectation of a Gen Z is totally different. And if you're not able to understand that, then you're not able to connect with them. If you're not able to connect with them, you're not able to attract them, right? Now, that calls for a lot of jargons which are floating in the industry for a long time, right? Like at least 2-3 years after COVID, we are speaking about flexibility. We are speaking about hybrid work environment. We are speaking about employee well-being. So a lot of things have changed over a period of time. And that calls for the word called culture. Okay? Are you even building that culture in your organization is super important, right? Rather than running around to create the revenue for the organization, profit and other things which are very important. But one data, right, the research says that if you have a great culture in your organization, right, your productivity increases at X number of times. It could outperform companies which have actually not a great culture, right? Now, coming to the next part of it, how can LinkedIn help the small and medium-sized organization to hire, right, to attract talent? Now, let me be very honest and let me put it straight to you. Like, no, we don't have a lot of time to, if you feel that you don't have a lot of time to go and understand the generations out there, what you do is you just put a job and then you actually call a candidate through the LinkedIn platform. That's possible. When you do that, automatically what happens is the candidate speaks to you, but he never returns back, right? Basically, that's where we are stuck, and we feel that no talent is not, when we reach out to the talent, there's no response back. But ideally, there is something which is happening in the back end, right? The candidate has a journey in the LinkedIn platform. It is his or her job journey, right? When I say the candidate's journey is all about whether I will fit inside this organization. He does his research. He goes and searches for that content, right, that is matching, that is attracting him. So when he does that, and you're not getting to the first part of the question and the answer that I gave, if you're not creating that content, and if that content is not reaching that candidate, then it's a repulsion, right? Then he doesn't come back to you. Now what LinkedIn does is, LinkedIn is able to, it's a vehicle which can actually take your goodness, your content to people, okay, to the candidates so that they are attracted towards you. Now, how many of you know about thought leadership here? You can put your hands up. How many of you do thought leadership? 10%, 20% of the people are raising the hands. If you're not able to express yourself in the platform, the hiring has moved from a very database hiring or a normal, regular, calling the candidates hiring to a very social hiring. There's a lot of authenticity which is actually attached to it. And so if you're not able to express your own organizations in the platform, the kind of culture that and the values that you're building in your organization in the platform, then talent attraction becomes very, very difficult. So that will be my advice and suggestion for all of you in terms of talent attraction.
That is very pertinent advice. And I think the biggest challenge is that, different generations are motivated by different things, as you very correctly mentioned. Yeah. Now, the fear of AI displacing jobs. That's another topic we need to touch upon.
Absolutely.
So, and since you all have done a lot of work in the talent space with reference to AI, so please elaborate on that.
Sure. Artificial intelligence is something which is massively spreading across industries, right? And there's nothing to fear about that. My perspective is, and what we see in the job industry is that artificial intelligence is displacing jobs. It is taking away jobs. There is no second thought about it. I'm very, very honest with you all. But we should look at a very larger picture, right? Look at industries like manufacturing, retail, agriculture, logistics. These are large organizations, right? Large industry. This is a big industry which is out there. And when technology meets these industries, the growth is exponential, multifold, which means this growth is adding to the global economy. I see that who will do this technology for these people? The software engineers, the IT industry. The IT industry itself is slogging to get the candidates to work for them, right? There is a huge supply and the demand gap, which is possibly cannot be fit into, right? And ideally, the technologies like these, when they chip in, then the transformation happens in the larger industry which is there. These industries are pretty much left out with technology. Now, I see this as some adjustment, right? When technology meets these industries, what happens is there is enormous growth, and in turn, it will actually create more opportunities. And in turn, right, more people will get jobs, right? So that is one part of it. I think overall, it's a net zero, right? Net positive, I think. Net positive, I should say. To be very honest, there's one quote which is actually floating around the internet, and when I read that, I feel that, no, it's very interesting. I will call that out. Artificial intelligence is taking away jobs to some extent, but people who know artificial intelligence are taking away most of it, right? So my summary on this is artificial intelligence can only be a co-pilot. It cannot be a pilot, and you will be the pilot all the time.
Yes, I completely agree. Now, could you tell us specific things SMEs can do to maximize the potential of LinkedIn?
Yeah, so as I already told, in the second question that you had asked, probably
in the form of some tips or something.
Yeah, so one is presence, right? You will have to have your presence in the platform, not just the LinkedIn platform, in any platform where your audience are, right? And create that brand, right? Like, in the previous session also, the professor spoke about brand equation, right? That's super important today, because are you able to associate with a brand? If you see an advertisement today, right, a consumer brand advertisement, they're able to connect one thing, they're able to have a hook, right? And that is super important. Is there a hook that you have for hiring that particular, audience is ultimately the talent attraction part. So what is your talent branding? Where is your talent branding standing? Talent branding is not like spending a lot of money into and then putting across the advertisements all over the place, right? Talent advertisement or talent branding is very unique and very specific that you can do in your in the LinkedIn platform, ideally. So that's one tip that I would give you. The second is be very open. Ideally, there is a concept of skill first, which is evolving, right? And when you say skill first, what it exactly means is that the pedigree for colleges, right, the degrees, right, where you come from, and also the experience, you carry a large experience, massive experience, doesn't matter anymore. What you bring to the table matters a lot. So that is skill first approach. And in our organizations, what we do is we also look at people, we hire people from different other organizations. So bring in a lot of diversity into your organization. For example, a hospitality industry, maybe somebody who's an account manager in the hotel industry can be a best or a good fit to build relationship with our customers, right? At LinkedIn, we hire them. So some of the skills can be developed internally. Some of the skills cannot be developed internally, right? Like, no, look at a larger picture and be open to see the candidate and interview the candidate. Don't look at, like 100% fit is never possible. So ideally, that is one tip. The second is the continuous learning, right? So this generation expects continuous learning, right? The learning curve is super important for them. Now, if you're not upskilling and cross-skilling yourself and your employees, you will be out of business. So the skills are getting displaced at between 2015 to 2030. I think around 35% of the skills got displaced, right? Till 2023. And 2030, we are expecting somewhere around 60%, 55-60% of skills will get displaced, which means that the jobs which were existed back then is not existing today and it will not exist tomorrow. There are new skills which are coming up. So upskilling is another thing which is very, very important that I would give for developing the organization as such holistically, just not hiring and also retaining people.
Thank you, Guna. That's insightful. I'm sure people are going to really benefit from this. So I think we can take some questions now.
Sure.
Hybrid work environment is very important. Can you just elaborate a little bit more about that building a good culture part, in terms of what LinkedIn's culture itself is?
Sure. Yeah. So, what is a culture, right? Culture is a combined personalities of your organization people, right? So there are values that always we have, and there is always you create that better place, great place to work. That is a simple definition of building culture. If you ask me how to build a culture, it is a lot. From the leadership to the bottom layer, you need to build the culture. And leaders are to be very mindful, and they also have to sensitize the culture, right? They have to speak about the culture, right? Now, in simple terms, if you're speaking that I'm inclusive, right, and you're hiring gender diversity, right, women, do you have even a friendly workplace for them? Right, basic questions, right? Number two is, are you hiring differently abled people? Do you even have a friendly workspace for them? Do you even have a ramp, right? When the world is moving towards that, are you thinking about how to look at diversity, how to look at inclusion, how to look at belonging, and so on, right? So it starts there, like smaller attempts to enable the workspace as a better place to work. In simple terms, like if I am the employee, if I am coming and working in your organization today, do I feel like coming to your office every day, right? Is that respect and is that dignity being shared with that employee-employee in the employee-employer relationship? And it is an overall organizational perspective. It's just not one person who can change it, right? So that could be my long answer, but yes. Yeah.
Do we have time for more questions? That's it? That's it. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Guna.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the insightful session. May I please request you to remain on the dais? Now may I please request Mr. Maulik Bhansali to present a token of our gratitude right here to Atreyee, Borooah, Thekedath, and Mr. Guna Grace. Can we have a round of applause for such an insightful session? truly a delight having you here. Thank you so much for such a lovely session.